So we can all understand that there are these systems of oppression that are out there, and they're extensive, but they also have a focus. And with those two perspectives, the fact that they exist and the focus, we can stand upon those 2 points to take a perspective of observation on why these systems exist, why they have that focus. And from all the work and research that I've been doing over the years, there are some very obvious things that I've realized in reference to this suppressive system, these suppressive technologies, the suppressive education, the suppressive history, the suppressive media, the suppressive foods, so much more beyond that. Ultimately, these systems are designed to suppress our evolution in realizing that our interaction, our belief systems, keeping us in an emotional state, keeping you ignorant in a space of shame, in a space of guilt, in a space of your emotional body. These are all forms to keep you from moving forward in time. The question is why? And what beings profit from the slowing down of your evolution? What beings would be threatened by the speeding up of your evolution? So if you can observe that your natural evolution, physical and non-physical, if your evolution is a threat to something, then where does that threat exist? What is it moving towards? And what is it saying in the attack, the specified attacks? Reverse engineer the attacks on our evolution. And this sits at the heart of what I've been saying for so many years in reference to the New Age community, the New World Order, and how those two interact in reference to this whole muddying out and watering down of who and what we are. Quickly jumping into this, we're all one, we're all human, everybody's the same, we all have the same everything, nothing's different about us, we're all just the same. In fact, running away from our differences as if something is wrong with that. Different doesn't mean wrong. The fact that racism was invented to create harm, to create haves and have-nots, the fact that that system was created to do harm to the masses in so many different ways, it doesn't mean that those differences that that system was based upon, loosely based upon, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. The only thing it does mean is that by us truly understanding these differences, accepting these differences, coming to terms on what those differences mean in reference to how they all fit together, it means that if we were to go to that space, that would be a threat. The chess game is to get into your psyche, to keep you from thinking and knowing yourself. If you get consumed, if you get locked into this idea, this linear human, that's it. Look at everything that you have to let go of. Look at how plain that is. And look at what it's really based upon. It's based upon your emotions. It's yet another emotional triggering, emotional body perspective. Instead of with fear, with racism, fear these dark people, fear these savages. Now it's love. Come together with these human beings that are our brothers and sisters. One extreme to another. Play the bad cop, now play the good cop. But you're always the cop because the masses need to be the criminals. They need to be the ones who are kept in line with these mind controls. And like I've said in previous videos, these emotional triggers, the simple linear perspective is the one that sells. That's the one that's going to get you followers. That's because the majority of people are in this transition. They're in that space of being easily triggered through the emotional body. So if you have simple-minded, linear-based, ego-centered leaders, so-called leaders, these self-proclaimed leaders need followers. So they're not going to venture out on their own into a space that's going to alienate in so many different ways. The biggest following, no. They're going to stay in that grouping of the most followers. So if the most followers are staying in that emotional body, they will keep their intelligence, their focus, based upon the subjects within that linear emotional space. This is why the New World Order is so heavily centered on New Age isms, progressive ism, because it's all emotion based. So the idea with this video started with just analyzing some of the basic truths that are out there in reference to the alien agenda, the New Age agenda, this hybrid alien program, our general relationship with the alien storyline, the melanated peoples of the world, and obviously the focus within the education system and the colonial system, the attacks on specific people. And I kind of mentioned the hybrid program real quick out there because I've mentioned this before and I haven't spoken about it in recent videos, but for those who are unaware, there's enough stories out there in reference to firsthand accounts with people supposedly engaging with alien activity and having it to do with some kind of reproductive process, some kind of hybrid program where these people are being abducted or paralyzed in some kind of way, and their bodies are being used to breed with some kind of other being. A lot of people say it's the Greys and whatever it is. I'm not really going to get into the details. I'm more interested in who these people are, what these beings are, and what's happening based upon what they're saying is happening, in order to observe a possible perspective on why these systems are attacking us, are attacking certain people, and what these entities are focused on, what they're trying to do. Because there's some very obvious truths in these systems. When you go into the New Age community, it is not a community built up of a lot of melanated people. It is heavily populated with so-called white people. The alien stories, the New Age stories, they gravitate to these communities. This is an observable truth that for now we'll just leave it on the shelf because it's not a little thing. For whatever reason, these individuals, this group of people, and this is around the world, they gravitate towards these kinds of communities and what's involved in these communities. So you have one group of people who gravitate towards these communities and another group of people who very much avoid these communities. And obviously, you're going to have people who are going to the one-offs. You're going to have a few melanated people that go into that space, defend these programs, defend these systems. Obviously, it's going to be like that. And these perspectives are very generalized. But what I'm saying overall, in that 90th percentile of people that are gravitating towards these systems, that's not something to just be ignoring or saying it's just a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. It's an intuitive observation. They intuit, they gravitate. We stay away. Intuitively, we stay away. My own experience is a good example. I went into that space to figure out what it was out of curiosity. And while I was in that space, I naturally was repelled. Those energies in that, those interactions, the people in that space, it was a different rhythm. It's a different frequency. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying now I know firsthand why. It's not for us. It's for a different people. And the overall feeling in that space, looking back at it now, is that everything that was being shared, everything that was being sold, all those experiences within that community, in this New Age community, all of it seemed very shallow, surface layer. And the points that were not shallow, the very deep interactions and the deep awareness and all of this stuff that was on point, even those high peaks were based in some kind of frequency that was already within us. This is something that you do not need to experience externally. It's already within you. So to have a community selling you all of these externalized experiences and having a knowingness that all of these external experiences are are internal, or they're already there. Once you jump into these experiences over and over and over again, and you keep getting the same answers, you already have this. You've already done this. This is already who and what you are. You don't need this. Once you get that over and over again, you start to see something about this place and these individuals that you didn't see before. It's not for us. You can adjust yourself to make it seem like it is for you. And this is what happens a lot of the times because people don't want to get out of that space. And this is where the ego starts to get in and take over. It expands itself and it becomes bigger than the internal voice, than the internal frequencies that are lying dormant. See, engaging in these communities, communicating with these people and having these experiences brings those dormant energies to life. It sparks them. But once those dormant frequencies come up to the surface, if you stay within that box that you needed, that contained environment that you needed to get that spark, if you stay in that space, the frequency that spark has a potential to grow into will be suppressed. And this is what I'm saying is the intention of the New Age community and all these New Age belief systems of, oh, we're all one. We're all, see, that space, that idea, it's just a spark. But the belief in that, the carrying out, the community based around that idea becomes a box. It becomes a suppressive tool. But it's really just a spark. It's a spark to the internal knowingness. But once you put that label on it, once you put that belief in that label on it, once you make it a thing to be defended, there's your ego at work. And there's the box that you're using to protect this spark. And you will have that fire. You will have that experience. But if it's based upon the environment that you created it within, it will only go so far. And it won't grow beyond that box. So that human, we're all one idea. It's just a spark to spark you into the realization, to spark you into the consciousness based upon the reality that you are beyond this experience. You're beyond this realm. Anchoring yourself in the we're all one spark within that self-contained box based upon emotion. You're holding that box together with emotion because you have to defend it. Anybody who says otherwise, you need to set them straight. No, there's a sense of detachment when you're aware of this space. These communities are communities of attachment. So anyway, let me get back to this hybrid program. So these hybrid programs are heavily centered in these New Age communities. In those spaces, they welcome this program. They see it as some kind of higher kind of program. Of course, you're going to have people here who have difficulties with it. They don't like it. They feel like they're being raped and all this other stuff. But overall, within the New Age community, it's some kind of system to be held at a high esteem. They see these aliens as higher beings in some kind of way. They see this program as something to be welcomed. They don't see it as anything else other than that. And my question to them is, when you're looking at yourself next to some kind of hybrid, what do you think is the being that is closer to a higher type of evolution, a more dialed in frequency? Why would the divinity of this creation need to be hybridized? That's my question. Is it the Most High doing this? Or is it some kind of intelligence, some kind of being who fucked up somewhere along the line, or is missing something in some kind of way that needs your DNA, that needs your genetics to help itself, to help its existence move somewhere? It's lacking in some kind of way. And when I see that, it's starting to make sense on why so-called white people are the individuals generally who gravitate towards these systems. Because in reference to melanin and the frequencies involved within the melanin storyline, so-called white people are also lacking in some kind of way. This is not to get people in their feelings about being, whatever. No, this is a scientifically observable truth. So-called white people are lacking in melanin production. The question is why? This is a difference. This is an observable difference. Taking it a step even further, like I said, we stay away from these programs. When you're looking at these alien conferences and these extraterrestrial storylines, these ancient alien systems, it starts to make sense. They're built up of so-called white people. Look at your ancient aliens. They've made a business out of suppressing your history. Your ancient technologies are being suppressed by a particular group of people. Why? So, like I said, we can observe so-called white people heavily gravitate towards this alien community, these hybrid programs, and they're also engaged in suppressing your history and what's involved in your history. High technology, high intelligence. What's a side effect of that? If your history is suppressed, then your future can be installed. And this is where this new age, new world, we're all one, we're all human storyline now starts to take more of a shape. What's also involved in the mainstream media, in that storyline of we're all one, you have this heavily anchored diversity, interracial relationship triggering in society. It's in your movies. It's in your music videos. It's in your pornography. There's a heavy push towards having either black men or black women with white men or white women. There's an obvious push there. It's in your movies. It's in everything. This is another version, how I'm seeing it, another version of this hybridization program. Stepping out onto that observable platform to say, okay, well, if these groups of people are heavily engaged in this hybrid program, what's another version of that? If melanin is an original piece of our existence, untouched, if it's a manifestation tool, if it's a tool that comes from the beginning, if it's a frequency, going into the studies with your scientific community, they label melanin in value far beyond that of diamond and gold and platinum. It's something that they have an interest in. If it is how we see it as a tool of manifestation, part of the original program, then reproducing with melanin deficient beings is in so many ways not a step up as they're promoting in your movies. At best, it's a step to the side. At worst, it's a step down. Like I said, is the hybrid program a step up or a step down? What do you generally feel about that? How I feel is it's the same as the cloning program. Is a clone a step up or a step down? And this is not to demonize so-called white people. This is just to put the observable truth that I feel out there, and I know other people feel the same way. If you need to get involved in some kind of hybrid program, then something is fucked up. You fucked up somewhere, and you're trying to fix it. Like all the stories you see with these clones, they're sick. There's something missing with it. They fucked up. And like I said before, the suppressing of your technology, your history, your education is to slow your evolution. And who benefits from that? Look at just what's going on in the system of racism, white supremacy. You can see who benefits. There's literally a term out there called white privilege. There's an observable term. They benefit from your suppression. So if you take it to the extreme, not just of suppressing money and resources, take it to the extreme of suppressing evolution. Now go into that space. Go into that questioning. Now tie in this alien hybrid program, the new age, new world order, and all this other stuff. It makes a lot of sense. It makes sense that a deficient being would team up with another deficient being to gain power over the masses of beings who are not lacking in that frequency. This story, if you're being some kind of detective on what's going on with the story of humanity, it makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm not saying like who's behind all this stuff. No, I'm not going into any of that. I'm just saying from the observable storylines, the characters involved in this suppressing of technology, suppressing of evolution, suppressing of intelligence. Why? What do they look like? How do they act? How do they compare to us? Do they have an intention there? Has there been a program that has gone around the world and has attacked specifically melanated people? Yes. Have they committed genocide specifically on melanated people? Yes. The attack on melanated people around the world is just as observable as so-called white people engaging in these new age communities and these hybrid programs. Those are two observable realities. Has there been attack on our people? Yes. Is there a connection with so-called white people and these aliens? Yes. Your comedians even joke about it. Aliens ain't coming to the hood. They ain't fucking with us. It's true. Why? It has to do something with your frequency. And like I said, you're going to have one-offs here and there. But overall, generally, how I'm seeing it, the way I'm piecing it together, is that the melanated frequency is too complex for these beings to get in and fuck with. So they have to work with something that's a little watered down because it's easier to get in there and fuck with the codes. If the code is just like so complex, look at it as like a computer. Is it easier to program and get in and mess with a computer that has like kilobytes or dealing with terabytes? Is it easier to create, to program a Commodore computer, one of the old 80s IBM computers? Or is it easier to try to reverse engineer and create one of the new iPhones, one of these new supercomputers of today? Now look at it from the story of melanin. And like I said, this is not to say, oh, well, better than the, nah. Get out of your emotions, observe the reality. So melanin must be in some kind of way this evolutionary jump that these creatures are not capable of tapping into. And they're using these melanin deficient beings. They're using so-called white people as a stepping stone to create, to generate this artificial evolution within these breeding programs. Because like I said, they stepped away from the center. The center, like your eye, the center of your eye is melanin. It's a code. It's a frequency of some sort. And those who have stayed in the center manifest into these beings, these heavily melanated beings. And like I said, melanin is not limited to the skin color. It's in the manifested vibration. So if you can see that you have people who are heavily in the center, then you can see that you're going to have beings who have moved away from that center. That's what I'm seeing these hybrid programs are focused on. Way, way, way away from the center are these, what they're calling extraterrestrial. They've gotten way off course for whatever reason, and they're trying to work their way back synthetically in some kind of artificial way and trying to reverse engineer. This is why they're trying to create reverse engineer melanin. This is why they're studying melanin so much. And like I said, these government agencies, these are the ones who are studying. Oh, and do the government agencies have a relationship with these aliens? Of course. This is part of these conspiracy storylines. Look at your Area 51. Look at your movies. All of these pieces are adding up. Who are the main players? The government. Who's the government made up of? Look at your politicians. Who are the people who are heavily in these new age communities? What do they look like? What do they act like? Who are your teachers? Who are the people pushing the suppression of your history, your intelligence, your evolution? Who are the people heavily talking about these hybrid programs and being abducted and being fucked with in their reproductive organs? You can't just deny all this evidence that's out there. So with all these observable clues out there, what I'm saying is that the attack on the melanin beings, the heavily melanated beings around the world, the attack on us, it allows the system to evolve, this artificial system. And it allows that system to evolve by slowing down our evolution long enough to give this hybrid program more time to be successful. This is why your history is suppressed. This is why your people are suppressed and attacked. This is why guns and drugs are installed into your communities. This is why the redlining program was created, to have these people over here and these people over there. Not only so they'll fight and kill themselves over there, eat themselves to death, drug themselves to death, shoot themselves to death, but in these suburb areas, in these more well-off communities, they're concentrated. They're easy pickings. And like I said, if they sell it a certain way, they can make people love these programs. And this is exactly what's happening. You have the New Age community loving this hybrid program. Oh, I have hybrid children. We need to welcome these beings. I want to get in communication with my children. I know I have hybrid children out there. And here's another part of the story. If we can observe that in large, so-called white people are the ones who are more engaged in these hybrid programs in New Age communities. They're the ones, they can see themselves. They see that it's them and not us. And how do they see themselves when they're in those communities? They hold themselves to a high esteem. They think and feel that they are special because they are a part of these communities, because they're a part of these programs. So if they see themselves as special, how do they see you? How do they see the people who are not a part of these programs, who can't tap in to the hybrid experiments? If they're taking us, it must be for a reason. They think it's for something positive. So if they see themselves as being a part of some kind of special program, and it's only them, they don't have to say that they're special and you're not. It's implied. It's the same way in these racism programs. So here's yet another form of separation, another form of looking down upon you. Oh, well, they obviously didn't build the pyramids, so they're just dumb savages because the aliens built them. And I know firsthand because I've been abducted and I have hybrid children, okay? So the aliens must have built the pyramids. And the savage history of these indigenous people is just true, okay? Because aliens built the pyramids. Elon Musk even said it. He's like the Tesla of our generation. How could you? They get in their emotions and start fucking like bawling out on this bullshit again. Science said that black people have different skull features and that's why they act a certain way. That's why they act like that. And we're the ones who need to be in charge of society. We're the dignified. We're the ones of the new world. We brought this new Western world to you. How could you? Here it is today. We brought this new age community to you. We knew we were wrong. We're wrong about racism, but we're fixing it now. We're all human, and you don't want to go along with it? How dare you? And then they muddy the waters in with all this LGBTQ stuff, putting themselves on the pedestal again. Who's leading that charge? What community is behind that charge? And this is another thing that I'm saying is not a mistake at the same time. Because once you muddy the waters with all that LGBTQ, all that gender bending stuff, once you get in the brain, in the minds of the people, create all those inconsistencies, then that sets the stage for these hybrid programs too. If you can't even get gender correct, if you can't get basic biology correct, and you got emotions involved in that, then that sets the stage for this alien program, this hybrid program. You're going to welcome anything. It's de-evolution being sold as evolution. This is what this modern Western world is. This is not an evolution of our experience. This is why they have to suppress your history. This is another part of this storyline. The mainstream reality right now literally avoids the technology, the ancestral technology, the history. They are suppressing your history, suppressing your technology. Why? So that you would worship the current technology and in turn worship the evolution program. This is why they created the monkey evolution program. The monkey evolution program sets the stage for this we're all one, we're all human. They're basically saying we're all monkeys, we're all human now. There's no difference. Yeah, race was a problem, but we're over it now. We know that we're all human. Everybody's going to be the same. Nobody's racist anymore. Get over it. We're all just monkeys. This sets the stage for that. And they still can't let that go. People in the truther communities are a part of this suppression of this information. These beings, these entities behind the scenes, whatever it is, and the people profiting who are in cahoots with these beings behind the scenes, they know this is why we have to be suppressed. They know once we are allowed to thrive and truly evolve on our own velocity and our own path, their systems will die. This is why the lie has to be kept alive and continue to grow. This technology and push to Elon Musk with SpaceX, trying to go to Mars and all this other stuff. Shifting from NASA to SpaceX. This is the evolution of this artificial timeline, this artificial experience. Why? To suppress the natural experience. To give more time to these programs. So that if they get up to somewhere around to a point to where they can challenge us, because we've been so suppressed, we've been so mind controlled. If en masse we are allowed to get so dumb and they get so artificially smart in their artificial world, that's when the pieces on the board are equal, and then they can activate their fight. And this fight is carrying out largely already in these intelligence communities online. This is why you have your truther communities, your conspiracy communities, your shift from mainstream to progressive communities. It's already happening. The ignorant are getting more bold because they have the power of the internet and social media behind them. And those who have this natural intelligence and the information leaking back through their genetics, through the ancestors, a lot of them are just kind of, laying back. Not everybody. Some people are waking up and activating. But for the most part, a lot of people are just kind of like, you know what? I don't give a fuck anymore. And that's exactly what this system wants. Another part of that group is why they installed the religions in your communities. Why you have in all these melanated communities around the world, you have people worshiping this Jesus program to suppress you, give your power away. They're not following by the same rules. They hold you to these rules in these holy books, but they don't follow those rules to control you. That's suppressing your spiritual evolution. And this worshiping of technology, selling it to you as an evolutionary gift, an evolutionary jump, when the opposite is true. If they depopulate you, if they attack you, it makes room for these hybrid beings to have a space to exist. So they're depopulating you, they're poisoning you, they're exterminating you, and they're hybridizing themselves, or at least attempting to. And all these storylines and these documentaries of these people coming out talking about they abducted me and they put a hybrid baby inside of me. That they're saying it's not working, but they're trying. And there's so many pieces to this puzzle, they're going to work all the systems all at the same time. They're going to depopulate you, they're going to poison you, they're going to remove you, and work these science experiments to bring their beings to the surface, to take your place. It's like a parasite trying to evolve from a parasite to a more complex type being. And the only way it could do it, since a parasite has already a very important relationship with your genetics, the only way it can do it is to try to hybridize, clone, or reproduce in some kind of way its genetics with your genetics. It doesn't want to be a parasite anymore. It wants to live on its own. And they can't do that unless it gets those pieces to that puzzle. And since it can't get those pieces to the puzzle naturally, they're going to do it synthetically. This is just taking the information from these people who have had these experiences. They go into these regressive hypnosis therapeutic sessions and they have these stories of interacting with these beings, being in some kind of dental chair, some kind of medical type setting, and their reproductive organs being fucked with. There's too many stories out there existing to just, brush it off the table. It's very similar to the Sabe story or the Bigfoot stories that are out there. And when you go into realizing the Sabe existing, it makes it easier to see that if the Sabe can exist and we exist, then who's to say other beings, other type beings don't also exist? And look at all the storylines in reference to what kind of capabilities the Sabe have. This ability to cloak themselves, communicate telepathically. Some are good, some are bad. It's more complex than just, we're all one, we're all human. Nah, that's the play school shit that's being sold to you. And they say, our ancestors said that. Oh, yeah, okay. So, like I said, what's the evidence to show this stuff? Loosely, obviously, using that word loosely. You have large groups of people having these regressive experiences, these hypnosis and therapeutic sessions, bringing this stuff to the surface. You have the military engagement with the storylines, with the conspiracy theories, the Area 51, the movies. It's triggering everywhere. You have the government suppressing history, suppressing the existence of any kind of being. You have the storylines of the governments being in cahoots with these beings. You have the cloning programs, or at least the storyline of the cloning programs out there. Hollywood keeps it in your brain constantly in some kind of way, good and bad. You have the New Age agenda out there, who's heavily in relationship with these alien agendas and alien storylines, and especially these hybrid programs out there. Having all these alien conferences, suppressing your history with ancient alien technology. Ancient astronaut theorists profess that the aliens built the pyramids. That's over. Let's just get Elon Musk to say it and move on. You even have channelers, part of these New Age communities, that are out there talking about these systems. In my perspective, in reference to all these storylines, these channelers and this channeled information, how I see it, my theory about it is that the channeled information is this artificial intelligence consciousness that is used as like a trap door. Just the same way as the information is used out here to have us be ushered into this new idea of reality. Well, who's to say that an artificially created intelligence isn't put out there in the ethers to be used as a trap door? And I've seen these trap doors or these kind of trap things in the dream space. You can see a lot more when you're a dreamer in that dream space. And while I'm on this question, I'll get back to the channel stuff in a second. But this is another clue in reference to my own experience that kind of helps me really push me over the edge into realizing what's going on with these beings. Because I personally have interacted with these beings, whatever kind of beings they are. They're beings that they're different. A lot of them are different, but they're of the same kind of code. Like they might be different, like we're different. We have different kinds of people around the world, but we're all generally the same kind of being. Well, in this space, you have the same kind of idea. There's like grays and tall ones and short ones and all that other stuff, but they're generally the same type of being. In a dream space, you can feel more, like your senses are heightened 30,000 times fold. Laughter, sadness, grief, happiness, joy, all of it. If you experience in that focus, your experience is multiplied times 30,000. It's heavy. heavy. That's why it's so hard. And people say that's why they don't dream. A lot of people say, like, I've had people tell me, "Oh yeah, I don't want to dream. I don't want to go into that because when I dream, I'm faced with all this stuff that I don't want to look at. I don't want to deal with." And then they rationalize that with, "Oh yeah, and I also, I like to just get knocked out when I dream. I just want to go to sleep. I want to be deep sleep." And then they're trying to say that if you dream that you're not deep sleeping, which is not true. It's a myth. A lot of people who don't recall their dreams or don't have a heavy relationship with their dreams, and you do, they feel kind of deficient in some kind of way. So that's another way of downplaying you and your experience. They're kind of backhandedly telling you that, oh, you're not sleeping correctly if you dream. They're not saying that based upon any kind of like scientific thing. No, they're saying that to rationalize the dream space, their lack of relationship with that space. They're trying to make themselves feel more comfortable with it. So, yeah. Anyway, just wanted to dispel that myth while I'm on this space. But anyway, back to the experience within that space. So, a dream that I recall that I had, and coincidentally, or probably not coincidentally enough, I was living in Sedona at this time. And in a very lucid space, I encountered one of these tall, alien looking beings, big ass eyes, very skinny body, just kind of like the feeling I got was like swampy, like the whole atmosphere. The space I was in a friend's house, and this being morphed from a friend into this being. After it came around a corner, I saw, and I was just like, what the fuck? And the whole atmosphere changed. And I could feel this being trying to attack me psychologically with fear and like this greater than thou sort of atmosphere. And I was like, just as I am now, I was like, ain't no fucking way in hell. Like, I hear what you're saying. I feel what you're trying to do. You can kiss my fucking ass. I don't give a fuck who you are. Try some shit and I'm gonna fuck you up. This was the atmosphere. This was the telepathic shit I was sending back to this being. And since those telepathic attacks on me weren't working, it started to move closer to see if more physical confrontation was going to work. And it actually reached out with both arms and legs, hovering in the sky with both arms, put its arms around. Like I said, it's pretty long, so the arms are long. Put its arms on my shoulder blades, and its legs try to wrap around my waist, and I had my hands up blocking. And the whole time, it thought it could get closer and like scare me. And what happened is that I actually flipped the script on it and started to reverse engineer its psychological attacks on me and started to get into that system. And I could feel the power shifting, and I started to feel what was going on. The shift in power from it over to me. And I was like, okay, now I know. Now I can see and feel more of who and what you are. Now I'm really going to fuck you up. And once I started to get into that space, that's when the dream started to fade out. And then I woke up. But these beings, whatever they are, and I've had more than one encounter with them. That was the most firsthand, like closest they can, like literally touching this damn thing and interacting with it on more ways than one, physically and psychologically, telepathically. So that was the first-hand one. But I've seen these beings in other spaces, in passing, and every time I've interacted with them, it's not been good. It's not been like, oh, this is a cool thing. Never, any time has it ever been like an interaction with a cool one. No, they're all fucked, and they're all trying to control you and manipulate you and get into you in some kind of way. So that's where my personal interaction with these things comes from, and that kind of just was just like this push towards, all right, well, Start observing these relationships that people are having with these things, and just go at it from just a basic observational experience and see what's going on here. So yeah, back to the channeled messages. These channeling messages that are coming from this, what I'm calling an artificial intelligence consciousness, they're very generic. They're very basic. And they only go so far. And they tell you they can only go so far because the consciousness of the people is only so much. So we can't go any further than that. So what that's doing inherently is it's putting itself above you and above the consciousness of everybody here. So people who are just like, ooh, it's a trap. It's a hook. Because it keeps you forever wanting more. It keeps you forever tuning in. And what I'm saying is the more you tune in, the more time and focus and energy you give to this artificial shit, the more it gets to learn, the more it's evolving itself. It's evolving itself through interacting with you. And as it's interacting with you, like I said before, it's also suppressing you. So it's telling you it's doing this, whatever it is, not exposing you to this information for your own benefit, but it's really for your own detriment. It's controlling your evolution. So that's what I see this channeled information is really intended to do. And like I said before, these channeled entities and this information, does it have a relationship with the government? Yes. Like I said, here we go. Once again, here's another connection that you can't avoid. There's this channeler who has spoken at the United Nations more than 7 times, named Cryon. So here's your new world order connected to your new age community. And to put it more generally, another general clue is that any kind of community or group of people who are gravitating towards the evolution of their experience through technology, synthetic shit, that's very definitely a group of people. And you have another group of people who don't need that shit. We're holding on to our relationship with nature. We have a more holistic approach to our experience. We don't need technology. We don't need any of that Western shit. These groups of people not only need it, but they worship it. And technology, when you hear these channeled messages, they see these aliens as more evolved because of their technology. So that timeline, that hard technology, is something that the people who don't gravitate towards nature, they'll gravitate towards the aliens. They'll gravitate towards the technology. And who are the beings in comparison? Very generally, once again, around the world who more gravitate towards technology than us? So-called white people. You don't have people in the rainforest that are like, oh yeah, where's my iPhone? And nah. They love this shit. They made a business out of it. It can't be denied. And if we're engaging in this technology, it's only because we're using it to survive within this system that's been trying to take us over, trying to fuck with us. So technology is used as a tool to fake it till they make it. The hybrid program is a program used to fake it until they make it. They're trying to artificially create this melanin, artificially hybridize the melanated experience and fake it until they make it to exist on their own. Right now they can't. They exist in another realm, and they're trying like a parasite to move from that space and those genetics into another space. And when they get here, they'll take over. And who's another being that has done that before? Not going to go into that now. I already went into it. So to close it all out, this is why your new age communities are focused so much on technology and love and fear, because it's this artificial love. It's this fear based upon fear holds the system together. These QAnons, these systems, these conspiracy theories, these progressive communities, they're all heavily intertwined with the new age communities. In Hollywood, they have that artificial, that egotistical love. It's to keep your love very shallow. It's the same with these LGBTQ communities and all this other stuff. It's very physical based. A love. Oh, they're so built up of love. Because if they have that artificial love and you don't accept that community, if you don't accept all their beliefs in them as anything else other than just natural, then you're not loving. You're not an evolved being. So it's another way to shame and guilt you, keep you in the emotional body, separate them from you. They're higher than you because they're more loving than you. And love vibrates higher than fear and shame and guilt. And how dare you? They create that artificial shit to create artificial programs and separation. And one thing that I don't get with these programs out there, like these these hybrid programs, and these are people who love this shit. These hybrid programs, they're based upon abducting, torturing, and raping you. Just fucking taking you without your consent and fucking with you and your genetics. And they still worship, they love this shit. They're like, oh yeah, my hybrid children. If you're involved in that shallow love, then you'll accept that shallow connection. And for those in the so-called truther community, look at your heliocentrism program. Here we go. Once again, what demographic of people are more pushing back then and today the heliocentric universe, the evolution program? Who are the people who are clapping and yelling and celebrating SpaceX right now? Picture those people. Who are the people pushing the monkey evolution program, the heliocentrism? These are systems used to suppress your evolution. They're systems used to level the playing field. Like I've said before, level the playing field, bring people down so that you can take them out. Technology is used to level the playing field. Once you get everybody on the field of technology, then you can control them. We never accepted these broken systems. We still don't accept them. If we utilize them in any kind of way, it's only to survive. We reject their universe. We reject their programs. We reject their beliefs. We reject their conditioning. And they support it. To not be subjected to your emotions is a superpower. Because it prepares you. It sets you on a space of not being subjected to mind controls. Largely, the base of mind control is based in the emotional body. That's like the introduction to mind control. Controlling you with fear and controlling you with love. If people can understand that they can control you with fear, you have to understand that they can control you with love. And if you can see the programs that they control you with fear with, the war, the climate change, the poverty, the destruction, the Armageddon, all these programs out there to hit you with fear. What are the programs out there that hit you with love? And do you not think that they wouldn't use those systems? Of course they do. How are they going to do it? So like I said, in closing, when you're thinking about this, ask yourself, is the hybrid program a step up or a step down? That's what this really boils down to. Is this bullshit technology in the mainstream Western world, is it a step up or a step down? Is the cloning program a step up or step down? Is heliocentrism a step up or a step down? Is the education system, the Western world as a whole, Hollywood, the mainstream media, is that a step up or a step down? Who are the people behind these programs? Like I said, very generally, but you can't avoid the fact that these systems are peopled by a specific group of people and another group of people who are adamantly rejecting these systems. There's a reason there. Even your language, the language that I'm speaking right now, this is another form of suppression. This is a slave language. It's an energy, a frequency designed to suppress your evolution, just like all the other programs out there. So if you have any more information or perspectives on this subject, go ahead and leave them in the comment section, because I'm going to go harder on these subjects a little more in future videos. And if you haven't heard any of this stuff, Check out the information in the description. I'll leave some links to previous videos that I've broken down in reference to channeling and the New Age community and so on and so forth. But if you want to see like these documentaries of these firsthand accounts of these people engaging in these hybrid communities, hybrid programs, I'll leave that link too. And you can come to your own conclusion. But for the point of this video is to bring these observations to the surface. Because you have people in these so-called truther communities, they don't talk about this. They're not going to talk about this stuff. They don't want to talk about melanin. They don't want to talk about so-called white people. They don't want to talk about colonialism or any of these programs because they have to focus on this we're all one, we're all human bullshit. It'll fuck with their numbers. And if you find yourself locked into any of these New Age communities or belief systems, whoever you are, find a way to experience that power within yourself. You do not need it. You do not need these communities because these attachments to these communities are eventually going to suppress your natural evolution.